A farm will never be a sterile environment, but it's important to have common sense practices in place to keep everything reasonably clean. Growers use a wide variety of packaging and packing methods. Well-designed packing lines can certainly increase efficiency, but they are not required for food safety. Just follow these rules. All effort should be taken to prevent damage or contamination of the produce during harvesting and packing. Packaging must be clean and appropriate to the product. Clean tools, harvesting containers, and packaging must be stored safely. Packing and storage areas must be free from pests and animals, and you should be cleaning up inside and around the buildings regularly to avoid creating comfortable habitat for critters.
At the end of the day, this pack house gets a complete cleanup. So anything that's been used for the day is basically sprayed off first with clean water, and then it's sanitized with our sanitizer hose, where we do our inspection every day of the water to make sure that the sanitizer is at the correct level for sanitizing all this food contact surfaces. Then we, at the end of the day, everything gets brushed. Any excess gets brushed into the floor drains. The floor drains are cleaned out. And then anything that's still ponding, we have squeegees where we squeegee the floor
to get rid of any
excess standing water.
Do you do any scrubbing with soap and water or detergent and water?
We do use some detergent and water on the sinks, so as you see behind, there's scrub brushes just to get into the cracks of the sinks.
What about on this kind of equipment where there's
No, because
cracks
we're
in
not, the produce is not really coming in contact directly with this surface. It stays in either a gray tray, which slides along the table, or in a green tote.
Now this is a fairly new building. Do you ever take the time to get up there somehow and clean any dust or debris off the structure so that it doesn't drop down onto the produce?
Sure, so a lot of pre-season prep goes into the pack house itself. So after we come out of the winter, this entire pack house gets scrubbed and sanitized before we start. So high pressure hoses, we cover the electrical panels, we cover the outlets, and we take scrub brushes and we brush. Because it's
get rid of cobwebs.
Yeah, we get rid of cobwebs, we get rid of any excess dirt. We're up along the rafters. Our mechanic kind of runs through the hoses and makes sure that all the fittings are correct and sprays off rafters and what have you. So it is part of the process before we start in the beginning of the season.
And do you clean the fans?
Yes, he does.
The mechanic cleans the fans?
Absolutely. And at the end of every day, the pack house is closed up. So when we're finished at the end of the day, as everybody leaves, the doors come closed, everything gets locked and secured, and this entire pack house is secured for the overnight.
So here we have a lovely stainless steel table that's right now just being used for storage. However, we have a table that's very easy to clean that isn't cleaned, and there's harvest equipment sitting on top of a dirty table. The harvest equipment is actually getting a little bit rusty, so that needs to be attended to so that it gets cleaned, oiled and cleaned. There are harvest knives under here that are sitting in dirty bins, and a little bit of trash hanging out on the table. So this is just an example of something that could be beautiful and needs a little bit more care. The harvest containers are stored upside down, but they're stored upside down on a dirty table. Tara, tell us about the wash line behind us.
It is a grape tomato wash line. We wanted something that could wash, be stainless steel, be able to be sanitized, have a long chute where a lot of our veggie packers could be on board. It could move fast enough to get a lot of volume through, but have enough sight to be able to color sort and grade by quality. There wasn't such a thing. My son's got a tinkering for engineering, so he kind of designed this and sent the designs off site to get built with stainless steel parts and all. Because whenever we get a new vegetable packing line at this point, we're moving to stainless steel from painted metal. Behind me, you'll see a vegetable packing line example of how we're changing to increase our food safety awareness and also durability of our equipment. This is what we're aiming to do on all of our upgrades of machinery from here on out. It's a better food safety choice. better, easy to sanitize and clean, and we don't have chip paint issues. There's no corrosion, there's no paint flaking. It's durable, it lasts longer, so it works for our farm in many ways.
Lindsay, tell me about this table. Was this the original washing table in the packing area?
It is. We used to use this for washing, and then a few years ago, in an effort to make the table more food safe, it was suggested that we paint it with marine paint so that we could wash it more easily.
And that would also make it easier to sanitize.
Correct. But as you can see, the paint is chipping off and we're back to the bare metal and wood.
Lindsay, tell us what you did to upgrade this wash pack area to make it more food safe.
Well, the most significant change that we made was having a concrete floor poured. Prior to that, we just had crushed stone, which was much harder to sanitize. And we also replaced our painted wooden and mesh tables with these metal tables.
Right, they're easy to sanitize.
Exactly. We also purchased these bins.
So these are horse troughs that you use for washing produce and dunking produce, okay?
Yes. And we've got this frost-free hydrant, which is a handy source of water.
Yeah, and you also have drains in the
Yes.
concrete that prevents too much standing water.
We use the vegetable washer for carrots, beets, and even if we're leaving the greens on, they come through this channel. So another thing that we'll do in order to get a lot of the dirt off is to use, these are under high pressure. So if they still have the greens are good and they don't look terrible, then we'll just, and they're already bunched from the field. We'll hold the bunch, spray to get the excess dirt off the roots, and then run them through the table to get any excess dirt off the leaves. And then they're packed. This is predominantly used for fall crops. So when we don't have any greens on the carrots, when we don't have any greens on the turnips, mostly root vegetables. Potatoes, we'll use this for potatoes. Even in the beginning of the season with new potatoes, you know, the skin is so delicate, so we don't even put them through on that. We do a lot through this.
Cucumbers, summer squash, does any of that get washed?
The squash all goes through the table as well.
Tell me what these sinks are used for and all of the different things you have stored above the sink.
Sure, so the sink is used predominantly for hand washing and for washing our tools. So our knives, our pruning shears that we use in the field, at the end of the day, the crew brings them in, drops them off in the sink, and then we scrub them, rinse and sanitize them, and hang them to dry. Our hand washing station is basically our soap, our single-use paper towels, and our water.
And a covered trash can.
And a covered trash can, correct.
And do you keep things separate so the hand washing sink is just for hand washing?
We don't. I mean, anywhere within here is acceptable as long as they're washing their hands, single use, making sure that the paper towels hit the garbage can. And then at the end of the night, it's part of the sanitizing process, cleaning and sanitizing process, where we spray this whole sink down with sanitizer. And
I also noticed that you have the scrubbing brushes hung so that they can air dry overnight because they can get really contaminated if they're sitting in standing water.
correct.
These RPCs, reusable plastic containers, we'll order them from IFCO. They'll come to us, clean and sanitize. We'll then fill them with product. We'll send them to our wholesaler and they'll ship them back to IFCO. They'll clean and sanitize. We'll reorder again a couple months down the road and we'll get clean and sanitized ones back to us.
One of the advantages of having these RPCs is, one, it's more sustainable. We're not just using a cardboard box once, sending it to a wholesaler and it goes into a dumpster somewhere. Two, they come sanitized, and we actually, when we don't own them, we're renting them or leasing them. There's a cost per piece when we order pallets of these. But the cost is actually less than some of our waxed cardboard boxes would be. So it's a savings that way and it's more sustainable. So we've got cardboard on top of each of the pallets of IFCOs to prevent debris or air dust settling on them. This is another food safety thing we've been working on for many years. We order a pallet of pallet pads, that's what they're known as, the cardboard, and we put them over everything in the pack house, including our box storage area, anything that might have debris falling on it. Another way we prevent debris falling on things in our packing house, which is an outfitted old barn, is the ceiling is washable and prevents dust. This is a single pass water spray system. We're using our well water, which is water tested twice a year for potability, and it's got a certificate.
As the IFCOs come down, we'll have police on the end. They'll grab the IFCO, we'll do what we call palletizing. They'll stack them up onto a pallet. After we're done palletizing, we're going to take these pallets, after they're stickered with those license plates that we were talking about earlier, and a green label, they'll put them on the ends here. They'll take it into the cooler behind you, and they'll place it on our fan to be, pulped down to the proper temperature and preserving its shelf life. When these go on the fan, they're only going to go on the fan for maybe like 45 minutes, versus the salad, when it comes out, it's going to go on the fan for 3 hours. All of our fans have timers, and we set a timer on them. That way, you just set the timer and you forget about it. The cooking greens, chard, bunch kale, that kind of stuff, we're going to pulp it down to the appropriate temperature, which is be 34 degrees, whereas our salad greens, we're going to try to dry off the extra moisture, so they'll be on the fan for like 3 hours, versus something like this will be on for like 45 minutes. And now we brought the product in, placed it in front of the fans, and now we've taken a tarp and placed the tarp over the top of the whole entire 2 pallets, drape the tarp in front. Now she's going to go out, turn the fan on, and you'll see as soon as she turns the fan on, and she'll start sucking the tarp in, just like that. She'll come back in, she'll pick up the tarp, and by doing that, the airflow is going to come in from the sides and then go out, and they'll come out of the top of the fan. These are our license plates or labels for our IFCOs. She's putting the 3-digit date code. The first 2 numbers are the week of the year, and the last number is the day of the week. So since this is Thursday, it's a 4. And she's just basically putting them all on the stickers. That way, whenever we place them on the IFCO, it already has them on. And she's pretty much, as she's going, she's counting these. That way she has the exact amount. We have these plastic lids that are on top of the IFCO, and the reason for these plastic lids is to help if, like, for instance, if we have any debris by chance on the bottom of the IFCO, it will help protect the product that's in the IFCO. Also, certain products like kale or something like that will have ice that will lay on top of that, and now as the ice melts, it'll drip down and the water will go onto the product and help keep it hydrated. Also inside the IFCO, we have the eggplant that's wrapped up in tissue paper. We cover up the eggplant with a tissue paper to help. That's prickly end here. It's really hard, and so we'll wrap up the eggplant in the tissue paper, and we'll stick it in the IFCO, and we always face them down. That way they're not up against any other eggplant, and that will help prevent puncturing any eggplant, and that will also be like a food safety, prevention and a quality issue.
Ed, are you using reused boxes or new boxes?
These boxes we do reuse because we're lining them with a plastic bag each time. So the box is really just used for transport and ease of packing, so that we know each box is an individual share, so that we don't get the bags mixed up, that type of thing, when there's more than one bag.
And these are the bags that you're using?
Yes.
And these are carry-out bags that people use in convenience,
Yes.
grocery stores
Yep.
and takeout places.
Yep.
So here we go. This is the kind of bag you're using.
Yep.
So do you use a few different bags in each one?
Yeah, we usually end up using 2. It depends every week on what we have and what the contents of the share are.
Okay. And then do the CSA people bring them back to you? The boxes?
Bags?
The
No.
boxes.
The boxes I actually bring back the same day. So when I go, I actually unpack the boxes onto a table much like this where I drop off, and I bring the boxes back with me. So I always have control of the boxes, and the bags we don't use.
Right. Let's talk about the packaging storage. The good thing about this is it's up off the ground
Absolutely.
and neatly stacked. One thing that isn't so great is there's no space between where the package is stacked and between the walls, so you can't actually see in behind it to see whether or not there are pests nesting and so forth, and you can't clean in behind it easily. Also, it's right by an open doorway, so on a windy day, dust can come in. Potentially, birds could come in, although you've already said you don't have a problem with birds. So tell me, I think there's a mitigating factor here. Talk about that.
There is. Well, a couple things with this. We typically go through the 3/4 boxes pretty quickly. So this stack, although it seems kind of large at this point, we go through pretty quickly. So what happens is as we go through the rotation, we are able to clean under the wooden pallets. They're typically stacked so that we do have a little bit of space in between. But I think ultimately we use single-use liners for all of our boxes, so we're able to reuse the boxes over and over and over again until they're at a point where they're no longer productive in the vegetables. And we do that through the liners. They are quite expensive, but it does kind of pay off in the long run being able to reutilize the boxes. So there's less waste. The CSA members with the sustainability aren't real happy with the plastic liners, but they've grown to understand that, we have less waste in boxes and
So it balances itself out. So let's take a look at your daily checklist for the pack house.
Sure. So I came up with a pack house list that takes care of the floors, the drains, all food contact surfaces and equipment, the walk-in shelving and flooring, the sinks, the trucks and dollies, the harvest tools, the pack line, the cleaning tools, and the garbage bins. So the person responsible for this checklist is usually, I designate it to one person at the beginning of the year. If that person isn't here, it usually goes to myself for a second. But it is making sure that the floors are swept and rinsed, the drains are cleaned and rinsed, and they need to check everything on a daily basis and then initial it. And then I take these at the end of every month and file them in our files for future reference.
And actually for the produce safety rule, you would need to add at the bottom of this, reviewed by title and date.
Okay.
So once this is filled in, the supervisor would actually make sure that it was filled in correctly.
Okay.
And the great thing about this is you've made it really efficient. You have a lot of things on one log, so you don't have to have multiple logs all over the place.
Correct. And then we do have a truck checklist log that is gone over in the mornings with the driver. He's responsible for making sure that all the fluids are checked in the truck, that the truck bed has been swept out, that any debris that's in there is removed, any old boxes or old egg cartons or what have you, that it's clean, ready to go. And then he's responsible for getting the truck turned on in the morning to kind of pre-cool the truck prior to the CSA start pack.